Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for ChangeMaker TV. And we have a very, very important and special friend of mine, Sharni-marie Barney. Welcome, Sharni.
Hi, everyone.
We've been having a bit of a laugh already before this, so this is going to be a really fun conversation. And yeah, I mean, Sharni and I met probably about a year ago, or maybe less. Here in Bangkok, and well, you're not here in Bangkok, but I'm here in Bangkok right now. We met and we just hit it off straight away. We've started working together. Sharni helps me with all my digital strategist work, and I've been doing some coaching with her. So we've got such a great relationship, and I'm so inspired by her life and what she's doing out there in the world, obviously with her work, but also in her life. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation with her today, because I think so many people out there would love to be living the life that you are, Sharni.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I had my manager actually ask me yesterday morning which country I was working from today. So that was kind of exciting. I just kind of had a little giggle and just went, wow, I'm actually doing this. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's
cool. Well, we're going to get into that a little bit more. Let me just quickly introduce you officially. So Sharni-marie Barney, she is a digital strategist and the founder of Forj Marketing, and also a world traveler, living and working with her family and running her business from all around the world at the moment, which has been beautiful to see. And obviously, you know, very inspirational in the fact that you're running a very successful company and also in a different country almost every other day, which you have been in the last couple of weeks, or a different city at least. And also, you know, juggling your life with your family. So that's kind of a big part of what we want to kind of like dive into in this conversation.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. No, it's pretty crazy. We've I'll give you a bit of an overview of the countries we've done in the last 10 months. So we've been on the road for 10 months now. We left our home on Norfolk Island, which is a tiny island in the South Pacific, east of Australia. We left the island last October. So we actually haven't even been traveling for 12 months yet, which is crazy because it feels like years. But so in that last period of time, we've actually spent time in Brisbane, in Australia. Then we went to Thailand, so Bangkok and Hua Hin in Thailand. And then we also did a trip to Cambodia and Malaysia and Hong Kong in that period of time. Then we flew over here which is where I am now, currently in England. So we've been all around England, up north, down south, left, right, all over the place in England. And then we've just come back from a trip around Europe. So we went to Dublin, Norway, a couple of cities in Norway, Germany, Berlin, so in Germany, and then went through Paris on the way back. And now currently I'm in Liverpool in England. So we're here for a couple more weeks before we start to head back the other side of the world again. So it's been a crazy ride, but amazing, just really amazing.
Yeah. So tell us how you kind of came to the decision to want to do this, and maybe a little bit also about what you've been through in your life. Just kind of, you know, a really short summary of where you've been and where you are now. And
yeah, sure. So I'm originally from South Australia. So that's where I grew up and spent a lot of my early years. And so I got to a point, I was living in Adelaide and got to a point where, you know, I was pretty rough. So I'd actually had cancer, had a massive tumour in my legs, had major surgery on that. Following that, that was kind of a pretty intensive sort of 3 to 4 months of that kind of vibe. And anyone who's been through that will know exactly what that's like. Came through that, ended up with massive depression. So, and then I just went on a massive bender in my life. So just went completely crazy, off the rails, just because, you know, when you're sort of faced with death, you kind of, you know, you kind of just go, well, I'm just going to live life to the max. And so I did that in all of the wrong ways. And then I ended up basically just completely off the rails. And so I went to a small island called Norfolk Island, which I've just told you about. and ended up there. I was only going to be there for 6 months because I had this desire to really want to travel, and I've always wanted to travel. In fact, my family think that I've got some kind of gypsy blood in me or something because I just love moving around. And so I ended up on Norfolk Island, which was amazing because I spent a lot of time just doing yoga and doing that whole soul searching stuff and just getting myself really kind of sorted out. And during that time, I ended up meeting my husband. And so Pete, his name's Pete, and so we got together, and then he sort of was building a house at the time, and he said, look, I don't want to go anywhere. Do you want to stay on the island? And I said, well, it's kind of a good lifestyle, and it's, really lovely community and beautiful, like the most beautiful, picturesque place in the world so far that I've seen. So I said, yeah, sure, why not? And at that stage too, I guess I'd pretty much disconnected from life because I'd sort of forgotten how to really live life, I suppose, with everything that I'd been through, and life was really easy there. It was very, I was very content, and everything just seemed to work. So we set up house there, got married, had 2 amazing boys, so Jacob and Benny. They were both born while we were living on the island. And then I just got to a point, and I sort of was working in hospitality and I've always been in sales and marketing, but then I just got to a point one day where I just suddenly went, this isn't enough for me. It's just not enough anymore. I can't do this anymore, It was kind of funny because I'd kind of just been pushing all this stuff down in me for a long time because I was scared. I was scared of living life because life had sort of just thrown so many sort of curveballs at me, and I felt like I'd been sort of crushed by so many things in my life up until that point that I think I just shut everything down because it was safe, and I didn't have to put myself out there anymore. I could live on Norfolk Island in the middle of nowhere, and nothing would hurt me. And so I just kind of shut it all down. But the thing is that, and as we know, as we've been through the coaching process, and anyone who's been through that kind of process will know, all this stuff is still sitting in underneath all of that, and just starts churning and churning, and it keeps coming up until you start to actually address it. And one of the big things for me was that I just wasn't living the life that I wanted to be living. It wasn't completely there. It was a nice life, but it just wasn't enough. And so I went away, had a bit of a soul search, and then came back, and my husband realized that things were about to change, and we had a pretty rough probably month, I guess, because he really wanted to stay on the island, and I just didn't want to. And so we went through sort of that whole process of working out what was going to work for both of us and work for our family. And in the end, he decided that, he was happy to kind of leave as well. And I never wanted to force him to do that. Like, I wanted it to be his decision. So we worked through that, and then we decided to leave the island. But it was an 18-month process between the time we decided to leave and then the time we actually left. We had to renovate our house and sell that. And then obviously we had to get all of our travel plans and everything kind of worked out. So that's what we did. So it was pretty crazy. And then since then, it's kind of been like a continual journey of discovery for myself and for Pete. But in this instance, for myself, of just uncovering all of that stuff that I really had sitting deep down. And the traveling has actually done that, in a big way. Obviously, it just exposes you to so much thinking and so much, different way of living and all that kind of stuff. And then the pressure as well of traveling so much brings a lot of stuff out. So yeah, it's been a ride. That's for sure.
Yeah. And the thing that I love so much about that is so often life can be good, life can be nice, and life can be crazy and really good, and no problems with it, and can't complain and all the rest of it. However, there's from many people that I know of, there's still that little thought in their mind, like what came up for you, which is there's something missing, or there's not, this still isn't enough, or I want something different, or I want something more. And quite often, like what you said, we kind of stuff those things down. We stuff it down, don't listen to it, say, hey, don't be stupid, my life is good as it is. But not, what's the word I want to say? Not kind of just swallowing that, and saying, life is good, but actually being brave enough to have those conversations and really go for it. How long was it that you, was it a while that you, oops, we lost you, we're back. Was it,
Yeah.
was it a long time that you knew that you wanted more? I mean, you did say that you knew that you'd love to travel and wanted to travel more. Was it, a couple of years or longer that you were thinking of this kind of idea, or would it just wake up one morning and say, I want to take off?
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I mean, the thing is, the desire to want to travel, I guess, had always been there, like from when I was, let's say 18 or 19. I was always fascinated with the world. I've always had a creative edge, a curiosity, I guess, to the world around me. And none of my family are kind of like that. They're all sort of fairly satisfied with just kind of doing life,
Yep.
And so that was always there. I went on a trip when I was about 25, 26. So I was actually married really young as well, and went through a divorce as well. So that was all part of all of that stuff that happened before I ended up on Norfolk. But after I sort of got out of that, and after I went through the cancer stuff, I actually decided I just was going to go for a trip up the east coast of Australia. And I did that. And on that particular trip, I met so many backpackers. Like, I did the backpacker thing and just met all these people from all over the world. And I just went, wow, like, the world is an amazing place. And that trip also showed me, I guess, that there's nothing to fear. Like, I think with the kind of life that I'm living, so many people just think that it's such a massive, big thing to do, and almost so scary to do, to like put yourself into all of these other countries and cultures and stuff. But when I was traveling up the East Coast, it was probably like the first step. I mean, all of our journeys are stepping stones, right? Something happens that then leads to something else, and then leads to something else. And it's kind of that opening of your mind to these ideas. And that trip really showed me that, first of all, I could travel on my own, and have no concerns for my safety and all those kinds of things. And secondly, that the world was just an amazing place, and that, that there was so much more to life than what I was currently living. Yeah. And so I guess that seed was really sown then. But then, following that was when I ended up on Norfolk Island, and I was on Norfolk for 8 years. So it was quite a while that stuff was kind of sitting dormant in me. And it was never like I sort of said to myself, I'm never going to travel, but it started to become really obvious that the life we were living on Norfolk Island, and because of its isolation, and the expense of having to travel with children as well, it was just never going to happen while we were living there. Or if it was going to happen, it was going to be incredibly difficult. And so I guess probably for a good couple of years before we actually made the decision, or before I had my sort of meltdown where I went, I've got to get out of this life, I've got to start living, it probably was a good couple of years that stuff was starting to churn, and I was I just kept looking for things to try and satisfy me. I could feel the discontent, and I could feel the frustration really kind of bubbling up, but it was like I just kept shutting it down, because I was like, well, it's not possible. I can't live that life. The life that I have to live is the one that I've chosen. I've chosen to be married. I've chosen to live on Norfolk Island. We've got an amazing house. We've got kids that are settled. The kids are in, they were in daycare and starting to go through the schooling system. I was like, well, this is the life that we've chosen, so this is what I have to accept now,
Yeah.
And this thing in me was going, I don't want to accept this. This is not good enough, it's just not good enough. And so, and so then I got to that point of dilemma where it was like, what the hell do I do now? I'm not happy. And yet everyone that looked at me was going, wow, you've just got this perfect life, where you live, your husband, your family, your lifestyle, the location, even the job that I had at the time. So I've actually only had my business now for not even 2 years yet. A part of the journey of breaking out of that lifestyle was then finding a business that would help support this kind of lifestyle. So back before that, I was just in managerial roles and sales and marketing roles. And so I kept looking for all those things to try and fill that hole. We talk about that all the time, but I really was. I was grabbing at everything I could to make myself feel satisfied, and it just wasn't working. So it was years. It was years of that process, but there was nobody around me to kind of talk to about it. I was kind of, I guess, worried about even talking to Pete about it, because I knew he was very content and very settled with life, and I didn't want to upset him. And, so there was the dilemma of how do I make this work and keep my family together, but also just somehow bring some happiness and some satisfaction into my own life,
Yeah. So how have you been finding it? Obviously, taking the boys out of their routine, and now you've been homeschooling them, and they've been getting to travel around and so forth. What have you noticed in them? Have you seen them flourishing? Have they been struggling?
Yeah, the kids, kids are amazing. Like they just, as long as you can find a playground in a city, they're happy, like it's just really enviable. Probably initially when we first left the island, there was that, missing their friends and missing Granny and Poppy and all that kind of stuff. But the more we've traveled, the more they've just adapted to the lifestyle. And it's actually easy to travel with kids. I think there's a lot of people as well who get this mindset that because they've got kids now, they have to just stay put and that it's too difficult to travel. It's more expensive to travel with kids, obviously, because you've got more plane tickets and hotel rooms have to be bigger and whatever.
Yeah.
But they adapt brilliantly. And the homeschooling stuff, there's still a real stigma around the whole homeschooling concept. But for us, we found it amazing. With Jacob, he's only just sort of starting school. So, we've just found it amazing to be able to spend the time with him in those early years to get him into a good sort of education routine that, and the kind of attention that we give him probably he wouldn't get in a schooling system at the moment, But we found that part of it easy. The kids are easy. They literally now know the process when we're packing up to go to an airport or to the train or whatever. They've got their backpacks on and they're off and they're ready and they've got the shoes on and the jacket and teddy bears and we've got it down pat now.
Cool.
Yeah, it's been really good. And I think the thing I love about it is that we're doing it together. We're experiencing all of this stuff together, and it's it's really brought us closer as a family, I think, because of it.
Yeah, awesome. So what's the plan? Like, I had a really good friend of mine, Jen Burkhead, who has just done the same thing. She's from Perth. Her and her husband, he gave up his business, sold it up, sold their house, and they've shipped over to Paris. They had a specific destination in mind, go and live in Paris and, build their business there and just try and, try something new. You're kind of, doing this world tour and you're going to settle down somewhere eventually, right?
Well, I'm not sure about settling. As soon as I hear that word, I go, ooh. We are. The thing that's become incredibly clear to me is that my business is in growth stage. It's that second stage growth where I need to invest a bit more time and energy into that. And as much as we've got the traveling down pat, it also is a little bit time consuming and drains a bit of energy, trying to get your head around wherever it is that we've turned up in the next country and whatever. So we're actually planning on heading back to Australia to do some work with a couple of my team members and some connections I have there. And then we're going to head back to Thailand. So we're going to set up, yay! We're going to set up in Thailand for, we're not sure how long. We're not putting a date on it. We're just going to turn up there, set up base there. We'll still travel from there. I think there's still quite a few different destinations we want to check out. And I've actually got connections all around the world, which has sort of dictated where we've been going. So everywhere we've been, I've had business connections that I've wanted to sort of connect with further. So we're going to set up in Thailand and we'll just base ourselves there, mainly because it's central. So, obviously I've got clients down in Australia and friends and whatever in Australia, but we've also got, people up here in Europe and across in America. So it's a good central location. So we think I get to hang out with you. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's right. I'm quite excited about that. So what have you learnt most about this, along this journey? What have you learnt most, whether that be about yourself or people in general? Or
a couple of things. I think, personally, the key takeaway for myself has been two things, really. The first thing is you can't run away from your problems. And so when I started traveling, I think part of it, part of the drive was trying to feel stuff that was going on inside of me, which, as anyone knows who travels, that you can't run away from it because you take yourself with you.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, damn it.
And you attract the same bullshit from one place to the next place.
Exactly.
Whether that be yours or a projection of on somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, so then in this whole process, it's been also a process of discovering myself and discovering, who I really want to be, and discovering I think when you travel, you start to see a lot of your own limitations in a big way. When you're comfortable and you're in a nice environment that's stable and the same every day, you can kind of bury a lot of that stuff underneath the rubble of just routine. When you're traveling, it just kind of all starts to come out a lot more. But so that's one thing. But also I've learned as well just the fact that as soon as you allow curiosity to kind of take you, and you leave fear kind of to the side. I mean, there's always going to be elements of fear with anything that you decide to do in life. But if you kind of just shove that over to the side here and go, I'm not going to let that stop me from doing what I really want to do, and you just allow curiosity to kind of have its way with you, it's amazing the actual kind of life that you can live. And so I think the whole traveling thing it was such a big thing in my mind when we started. And now that we're like nearly 12 months down the track, I go, wow, like we've actually done this crazy life that we sort of dreamed up, and what else can I dream up now? It's like,
exactly.
It's like yesterday, it's like, okay, I've done my 12-month goal. Like I've got to set some new goals that need to be even bigger and better than what I've done. So that's a really big thing for me, as far as, living in potential and living your potential, that it is limitless. It's really just as much as you can dream up, you can actually do. So that's cool. The other thing that I've learned is, people are the same all over the world. And people say that all the time. It's quite a cliche statement, but people really are the same all over the world. And the world is not a dangerous, hateful place like media make it out to be. Like, people are just beautiful wherever you go.
Yeah.
It's just, they're different. Everyone's different, and they have different ways of operating and whatever. But in essence, we're all the same. And so I love that. I love learning that about cultures and things. And yeah, they're the big things. I mean, obviously it hasn't been all roses. Like, there has been, a lot of hard days, and there's been days where I've gone, why the hell did we decide to do this? Like, I just want to go back to my tiny little island and hide under my rock again. Honestly, you have days like that.
Yeah, because that's easy, right? So
exactly.
It's easy to want the easy as well.
Absolutely. And you can always find an excuse for things, I was having an issue with my business one week, and I was blaming it all on travel. And then one of my friends called me up and said, look, it's just, you're just using that as an excuse, like to not deal with what you really need to deal with. It's not travel. It's this, okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, but they're the key things. Basically that, people can do anything that they really want to do if they really want to do it enough. And they are willing to get uncomfortable in the process.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I love that you said about the curiosity. The other emotion that I love to attach on the flip side of fear is excitement. You can look at, wow, we're going to give up all of this and head over and travel the world and do this, and let fear stop you, or let fear be there. Or you can, like what you said, put it to the side and focus on, wow, how exciting, and trusting that things are going to work out, and as they always do. But that's it. The other way to take fear on is to flip it and focus more on how exciting fear actually is. Like jumping out of a plane is really, really scary, but it's also really exciting at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and that's the thing, is that people, I think it's funny, I read a quote this morning too about action, and I know that you're all about action. Like, you're totally action woman, right? I can't keep up sometimes with you.
I'm like, Sharni, you have any idea? Now I'm here. No.
But, yeah, so what was the quote again? I forget.
Oh, no.
It was all about taking action. It's saying that everybody says that they would love to do all these things, right? They say that they would love to live the life that I'm living. They say that they would love to have their own business, or have kids, or they would love to take dance classes, or whatever, but nobody ever does it, right? No. And it's like, you just have to do it. You just have to step by step by step. I mean, like I said, we're nearly 12 months down the road from our travel, but it didn't happen all overnight. It was steps. We took steps. We made decisions along the way. And we just keep making those decisions. I mean, we literally only just planned to do our Australia trip like a week ago. Yeah. And so that's the thing, I think, is that, and the other thing is that people get so stuck into social norms, what they think that they should do. Yeah. And that was where I was at. I was doing all of the things that my family or society or whoever they are, thought that I should do, or who I should. And I just went, you know what, like the crazy thing about us selling our property on Norfolk Island, everyone was just like, you're crazy. It's paradise. You've got an amazing property, amazing life. What the hell are you doing? And I'm like, what it came down to is I said to them, I'm not happy. Right? I'm just not happy. So why have all this stuff? Why have this amazing house, or this job that you hate going to work every day, or, this lifestyle that you're living, if you're not happy and you're not satisfied, that was it in the end. I just went, I'm not willing to live. I actually put a quote on Facebook the other day. I'm not willing to live a half-baked life. We only have one life to live, and you might as well live it doing something incredibly exciting and amazing. It doesn't have to be what I'm doing, but I don't understand why I do understand it, but we shouldn't settle. You shouldn't settle for whatever it is that you have just because you're unwilling to sort of go through a little bit of the hard yards to change things up. Yes. Because you go through the hard yards, and most of the time, the belief that we have about those hard times is nowhere near as the actual reality of it is nowhere near as hard as what we make it out to be. No, that's right. Yeah, it never is as scary or as hard. No, not at all. Especially if you break it down, So that's it in the end, really. You just got to live your own life. You got to live your own life of what you think is right for you, and that's what I've decided that I want to do. And in a big way now. Now I deal with a lot of the stuff that was down deep down. It's like, let's go. Let's keep going. That's right. Yeah, definitely. Obviously, it's been great to see the shifts that we've been able to see with you, the work that we've been doing together. It's been just so amazing, and you've been so easy to coach, because you just you just do it, and you're in action as well. So I think that's why we get along. Watch out. Sharni's going to take over the world, you guys. Absolutely. Yeah. She surely is. So. No, it's awesome. And, there's many people. I mean, ultimately in the end, I'm living the life that I want to be living. But at the same time, I have a massive passion for, I'm a digital strategist, and I'm doing a heap of marketing with some amazing clients. And I really want to see them come alive in their businesses. But ultimately, I just love seeing people come alive, full stop. I love people just, wanting to do something or wanting to achieve something. And then if I can just inspire them to go, what the heck, let's just do it, then that's awesome. Because you imagine the whole world, if the whole world was living that kind of authentic life, it would just be a powerful place. It would just be so exciting to be in. Yeah, for sure. Yes. And it starts with us, the more of us that do it. And sometimes we think, wow, how can I really impact the world, or how can we make these changes? And it starts with a few of us. The ripple effect then, continues to affect more people and impact more people. And interestingly, we actually have the same goal, right? We don't want people to settle. Like the status quo, fuck that, And however, we have a different vehicle of how we do that, But I love the fact that we both have the same vision. It's ultimately for the same thing, but it's a different way of doing it. And so for, people out there that are listening as well, like it doesn't have to be one way of doing whatever it is that you want to do in the world. But collectively,
ultimately it can all come back to helping others, making a difference to others, lifting each other, uplifting those around us, not accepting the norm, not just listening to what we should do or what's been done before or whatever, right? Because that's playing it safe, playing it small, not listening to what you really want. And just acknowledging you for listening to that, taking the action, taking the steps, having the guts to really go after it and do the hard yards.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that people think, like, for instance, with me, I thought, I don't want to upset my family and I don't want to upset this person, that person. But in the end, when you're not living the life you want to live, you are upsetting everyone around you because you're like a freaking bear to live with, like I was just so frustrated all the time and so annoyed all the time, like nobody wants to live with that, like, so that's the thing. And that's the other thing too, like I was reading a book yesterday and it was saying everybody is living the no life. Like they're living, most of the world are in this no place of like, I just can't do it. It's all fear and anxiety and stress.
Not enough time, not enough money, not enough something. No, I can't because of that. Using excuses because I've got 5 kids, whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, and and we pull out all these excuses, and I know, like, I seriously know how hard it is to be in that place because, as you know, I've been there like so many times and for so long. But that's what the rest of the world are doing, and it's a boring place to be. Who wants to be like the rest of the world, really? I mean, we want the whole world to come alive. But how much more exciting is it to live an enchanted life, a life of curiosity and whatever? So, yeah, it's totally about that. But it's stepping stones, the seed starts somewhere and then you just give that a little bit of water and then it grows. And then all of a sudden, like I was in Paris the other day and I was like looking at the Eiffel Tower. I'm going, holy hell, I'm actually here. Like I'm here in front of the Eiffel Tower. Yeah. And I had to kind of take a moment just to kind of take it all in, because the other thing too is when you take in life, whatever life you live, you have to kind of take a step back and just go, wow, like I'm actually doing this. Like it's amazing. So yeah.
Enjoy being in the moment.
Yeah. So
cool. Awesome. So just around that, in terms of, I guess, advice that you would have for someone who, maybe has that little niggle of, or that little thought or that little idea of, what if I did that or, I am not happy and I really want something else. What advice would you give them?
Maybe come and see you.
Thank you.
Absolutely come and see you. I think, probably one of the key things that I do personally in my life that makes a big difference is I write. Like I'm a journaler. I have a journal and I try and spend nearly every morning writing, at least 2 pages every day. It sounds like a really funny thing because it's not a massive thing to do, right? But the process of writing and getting that stuff out on paper, I think is really powerful. And so what generally happens when some of those seeds start to form, especially if you're in a family environment, like you're married with kids and, or you're in a solid job or whatever, is that there's so much fear around just kind of going out there and doing something about it. And so if you can actually start to write it out and plan out what it is that's kind of stirring on the inside, I think you start to see clearer of some of the steps you can put in place of how to move towards that. And so there's this kind of process of moving closer to that vision. And for me, that was the process that was happening. So I started thinking about, employment that I needed to have to live the life that I'm living. And so that was kind of my first thing about, okay, well, how do I transition out of having a set job into a career that then, allows me to travel? So that was kind of the first step. And then the second step was, okay, I needed to get healthy because I was really unhealthy at the time as well. I just had my second child and all that sort of stuff. And so there was a confidence thing. There was a self-confidence thing that I really needed to develop in myself, which was also a stepping stone. I didn't really know it at the time, but I see now that was a big stepping stone of getting myself in shape, feeling confident about myself, feeling confident about the fact that I could achieve something. So having those small goals in place really help. So once I've achieved this goal, then I know that, okay, I've got the confidence that I can actually then move on to this next step and I can achieve that. So I think for people who have got that stirring is get it down on paper and set yourself some goals, and set yourself some timelines. So for me as well, at the time, one of the big things for me as well at the time was I needed to educate myself in a big way, firstly for my own business, but also to be able to get out of that life that I was living in. And so basically I shut myself, I kind of pulled back my social life in a big way and hardly socialized that much at all. I stopped drinking, like completely stopped drinking alcohol, which cleared my head up, obviously. I drink a little bit now, occasionally.
Just one every day.
And then, how can you not when you're in, France? And
that's right.
And then I also stopped watching TV. So I completely, in fact, to this date, I only watch one show per week. And that's, Game of Thrones. Sorry. But yeah, stop watching TV. So I spent time educating myself. I started reading books. I started watching podcasts. I started watching YouTube videos. Just fast tracking my learning for my business, but also for a different kind of lifestyle and connecting with people. So where I was living, the people we connect with really help to develop those seeds inside of us. So if you're connecting with people constantly on a daily basis who are in the same kind of mundane existence that have no motivation and are going nowhere, then you're probably going to not really go anywhere yourself. So I started connecting with people online, which sounds really random. And back, 20 years ago would have been seen as weird, but today it's really normal. So on Twitter, predominantly Twitter actually for me, just started connecting with people around the world and started hearing what they were doing, learning what they were doing, and just being inspired, like especially Americans. God, they're just so passionate. So I just got really inspired by what other people were doing. And what that did was it started to develop those seed thoughts into possibilities, because as soon as you see that someone else is doing something that you want to be doing, it immediately kind of gives you that inspiration of like, okay, my God, this is actually possible. And it starts to remove those limiting beliefs. So writing, connect with people who are going to inspire you and start setting some goals and moving towards it, and stop watching TV.
Yeah, some great advice. It's so true. So with the journaling, that really brings out into the consciousness what's really going on behind the scenes. Just so important to start to integrate that. The first steps are really at least owning up to what's really happening behind the scenes, which a lot of times we don't pay attention to. It's running, but we're not noticing that. So I love that. And definitely the input and the people we surround ourselves with are who we become like. So really great advice. Awesome. Love it. And
cool.
Any other, that's some really, really awesome advice there. Any other little golden nuggets you'd like to throw in before we wrap it up? Your favorite quote, maybe favorite book?
No. Well, at the moment, actually, for creative people, I'm reading this one. It's going to be back to front on the video, but it's called Big Magic. And it's actually all about living a creative life. I literally bought it yesterday and I've already 100 pages in. It's amazing.
Cool.
Just really inspired by the fact that, she was the author. She spent half her life in doldrums and just complaining about life and complaining about everything that was wrong with her and why she couldn't do anything. And then she suddenly realized that it just wasn't serving her. There was no positive purpose for running those mindsets. And so then one day she just kind of woke up to it and just went, you know what, I want to live an amazing life. And so she talks all about that. So it's a brilliant book for that. And another really good book is called The Big Leap, which was recommended by you. It's probably my favorite book to date, actually. It talks about living in your genius zone. And as soon as you step into that genius zone, how life just transforms itself around you. And I'm in the process of doing that at the moment. And it's amazing to sort of watch that kind of happening. So there's 2 good book recommendations.
Oh, awesome. Love it. It was so good. Well, thank you so much, Sharni. It's been absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm sure people are going to be very inspired by you and, what we've been able to talk about. And
totally happy for, if anybody wants to talk about, upheaving their whole family and going on the road, then feel free to get in touch with me. Happy to talk to anyone who wants to do that kind of crazy life.
Reach out. How can they find you, babe?
I'm on every social media network, being a digital marketer. So they can look me up, Sharni-marie Barney, on any of the social media networks, or Forj Marketing. They'll get me as well. Forj.
Forj. Go and check Sharni out. Connect with her. Chat with her. She's such a beautiful lady, as I'm sure have been able to work out just by hearing her over the last half an hour. And thank you again, babe. Thanks so much for your time. Look forward to what's next for both of us.
Woo. All right. See you soon.
Catch you later.